Well, golly.
No,
I have like a couple francs on the table for this, and this is kind of unusual.
Sure.
yeah,
Uh,
please. Someone
um,
else go first because I'm still not
I
sure.
watched the first 20 minutes of the thing, and it reminded me of anything of La Jetée, because it's long, it's very still scenes with that kind of like rambling French narration going underneath it.
Hmm.
I'm thinking, John, all you have to do is pull stills from this thing and put in for the narration. You've got basically the prequel to Levine and Shen, including dogs barking in the background.
And of
So,
course, I thought of Chantal Ackerman's
No,
Jean
no, no,
Moulin.
no.
right?
This
Yeah.
movie, this movie is the prequel to the next movie.
mhm.
Yes.
No, yeah. Well, your theme is very subtle. I mean, it's like
Not just the fucking theme.
yeah. Well, what?
I'm wondering, is it in the same universe? Because this motherfucker shows up in the next movie
Yes, he does.
in a Nazi outfit.
That's a
Howard,
first.
Vernon Howard.
He did go off to the front, and it aged him severely because
No.
Yeah,
Well,
really.
he got
so
mustache.
I swear he looked 20 years older.
Oh, yeah. So,
Because they shot the Silence in 47, and it took them 2 years to get released.
oh.
God, I mean, they were barely. I mean, that the war had
They,
basically just ended.
I do like all the documentary footage of Paris with all the signage and
I was going to say, Jim, that this thing is clearly made on a pretty modest budget,
yeah.
and so the fact that they had actual footage that cut cleanly into it that was actually during the occupation
Yeah.
Yes.
kind of saved their butts because all they could do was cut to this actor tightly cropped with
Right.
whatever the Notre Dame behind him looking around, and then they
It got pretty funny after a while, actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
I started laughing a little bit because it was so obviously.
Show like they show like they didn't show Eiffel Tower for some reason, but everything else, the
They
Tuileries, like
show
that.
the Eiffel Towers in the back
Yeah,
of one
but his head
scene.
pops up and he looks around and goes back down
Yeah,
again.
and he's just almost like a little sock puppet.
Yeah.
They had to. If you tilted down, you would see basically a bunch of American GIs laughing and scratching with bottles of wine because it was
Yeah.
like late in the occupation, right?
Does
Uh,
anybody know how old this guy was when
I
they?
don't think he's very old.
Oh no, that beard and mustache ain't fooling anybody.
no,
I
yeah.
was.
Yeah.
I immediately thought of Roddy McDowell in the movie.
I
So did
found
I.
it.
It was
I
like a
found it
flash
tremendously.
forward.
the same makeup job.
I found it perpetually distracting. That
Yes.
it's like got one expression with pipe or without. That
Yeah.
again, it's like this. It's a kid wearing a fucking old man's beard
And
mustache.
all he does is like he is
Here.
so intent on ignoring the German guy. He's just going to give himself lung cancer. Like he sucked that pipe all night long, every night.
And she's got carpal tunnel from
I
knitting.
know.
all-
It's like, I'm sure her hands are
I
bloody.
kept waiting for her to poke her finger.
I know exactly. So
This is an odd movie.
I heard there's a reputation that French have of being rude. Is this what the film is? Is this the sub thing about this? Because that is really, I know he's a Nazi or a German or whatever you want to call him,
Yeah.
but that's fucking rude, man.
Well, I mean,
Well,
they
that's
say
the part.
He's in
opening,
your house. He comes in. He's like, "I'm staying here now. What are you gonna do?"
Right, I'm so conflicted about this movie. But I struggled with this guy's out makeup, and then I struggled with at no point does the Nazi do what any normal person would have done, which is at some point go, okay, what the fuck, you two?
Yeah, right.
Never. And I get
Piped out his hands, right?
that may be the point of the movie. Like this movie's trying to make a larger point that I think might have been, and I'll get I'll get this. This movie is making a larger point that might have just gone right over my head because it's like watching Eraserhead a lot of the times.
I'm not going to argue with that. It's like it is almost avant-garde watching this kind of play out.
Was
Like,
anybody-
I understand there's many of these. Like I was thinking a lot about Tokyo Story with some of the weird camera angles and like we're looking at a lot of ceiling, particularly anytime the German was talking. And I appreciate that many of these kinds of movies go right over this idiot's head. And this might be another example. And so I'm happy to be told what I missed here because I think this is a really interesting idea for a movie, but it's so inert that I found it really challenging.
Yeah, I can see
Well,
that. That makes sense.
I think it's partially because it's based on a book that was written in 41, and the book is obviously you can get away with it in a novel, right? It can all
Right.
be narration and have a few flashbacks and stuff, but it's really sort of tiresome at times.
When I read about it, they make a big point out of the fact that this is very accurate to the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so
It seems so. It seems like a
Is
film
the book
novel.
really thin?
it's actually probably booklet size because it was published during the war illegally.
Yeah, illegally published.
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, it's like it kind of goes on like that for a while, and there is a theme, and it's actually both these films are tied up in the same theme, is as the Germans trying to destroy French culture or at least steal it.
Sure.
And that's what's going on, and there's two different reactions to that.
That not just that, Scott. I think it's also both of these movies, and maybe if Tad was here, he'd object. Both of these movies, to some extent, humanize Nazis in that
absolutely
Which
is weird because it's made so soon after the war that you would, and Melville was in the French Resistance.
Well, right? Yeah, I mean, it really does humanize this guy, and when you see how he's finally so disillusioned when he goes to Paris and sees what he sees and hears what he hears,
this scene.
He's completely destroyed.
Yeah.
You know, and then he goes off to the front to fight? It's not what I was expecting him to do.
He volunteers for the Eastern
Well,
Front.
we the audience have
right.
I think
He just wants to like die. He's going to go off into the snow and die.
Well, the drama of the thing is we meet this guy. We don't know anything about this soldier, this officer, right? And we learn more and more of how much he appreciates French culture and how much he likes being there. He really loves everything about it, all the books, and he would love to live there in the countryside. And I'm sure the guys in the house are like, yeah, whatever. I wouldn't talk to you as a neighbor, but anyway, he goes on like that.
By the end,
it would show
both the father and the daughter
it slowly evolves into his love for France, which is like, I'm so excited I'm going to Paris, which is great because you saw that wonderful montage. Like, this is everything I always wanted. I'm a German guy who loves France. That's okay.
It's that's not a stretch. I mean, like,
no, it's not.
Like, it's totally, if you've got an educated population living in Germany, of course they're going to have been taught French math, the masters, like all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, of course,
that makes sense to me.
And then we go to the party or whatever, all the officers are there, and there's the fucking drop, man.
The club,
yeah. And they're just like, we're basically gonna kill everybody here and burn their shit.
Everybody here.
You have a Waffen SS guy playing the guitar, playing that typical
that was
folk song.
Yeah, it was a mix. That was a little bit of there's here Luftwaffe and all those guys were all together, and
it was interesting as much of this guy was portrayed as having strong feelings for France and sort of a soulful attachment to the country almost. He also did occasionally sort of insensitively sort of spout some Nazi sort of but we are.
I think that's the point, that he's supposed to be like, not a willing Nazi, but at least like he's friendly traveler or something.
I think
by the end
he's bought in. He's bought in to some extent.
He's bought into some of
propaganda.
So
it's like, this is. He goes, I know you guys are upset right now, but this is going to be good for France, and it's going to be good for Germany. But it's like they've invaded your country, and this guy's living in your house. How could they take this as like, trust me, it's going to be great?
Yeah. Also, I think the point he was making is, France is a fantastic country with a great culture. I should know because I remember the master race.
Yes.
And that's the thing.
There's condescension. He's
that conquering superiority.
It's genteel, but it's like almost unconscious that he's doing it.
Well, he's sort of like, well, we did conquer you, and that reflects on you.
Yeah, pretty much. I think he says that
a couple of times. He did that a couple of times. And that's this is the thing. We're talking about this, and like,
I thought you should stab him with the knitting needle at that point. Just like,
you didn't call him cheesing surrender monkeys, so that's good, right?
Yeah.
You guys are kind of making my point, which is like, there's a lot of good stuff in this. It's just the filmmaking, and we've watched this is like our third Melville movie, right?
Yeah,
right.
I think so.
Yeah, like again, there's just something about his approach to this material, despite all the good stuff that you guys keep bringing up. It's like watching three statues in a living room for 90 minutes.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that, man. That's like, it's very static. It's
extremely static.
His early. This is like
voiceover.
This is a first movie. This is his first film, right?
I guess
Melville's first film.
It's
Yeah.
his first feature
Yeah,
film,
so
yeah.
he could go anywhere from here. The thing is,
That kind of tracks.
he ended up being like a James Bond director, basically, and then again into his later career. But
Compared to this,
he could have gone and been like, Godard, or end up being like, David Lynch. He was like, he didn't have a style, but he was.
Well, but this is more David Lynch than Godard. That's for
I know,
sure.
that's for sure. That's like, in terms of like how avant-garde it's going to be, and this is
it
like.
is, but I wonder how much of that is almost unintentional, given that it was the source material and the budget both kind of forced them to
But you have to remember, existentialist philosophy is developing like right before the war, and it really becomes important after the war, especially in France and Germany. There was a lot of crossover between philosophers in those two countries, and it shows. I mean, this is almost like a Pinter play.
It is,
right?
Where you just have a bunch of people sitting or waiting for Godot,
or Sartre. Yeah, it's like
But Scott,
waiting for the Nazis.
This is a lot like No Exit in some
ways.
ways.
Waiting for the Allies.
Because that's like No Exit.
No, that's the next one.
Oh yeah, but it's kind of this one.
Scott, put that picture back that you had a second ago, because that's basically like the closing shot, right? Más o menos, like this is where
she says farewell.
And this is kind of like, again, talking about Chris Marker, this is kind of the shot in La Jetée where the girl opens her eyes.
Almost.
She moves for the first time.
This is where she breaks.
This is eye contact for the first time in the movie, and it's the
eye contact, and she's never spoken until then, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I felt about that.
Yeah. Actually, at the end, remember that he was going to knock on the door, and he actually he said, let him in, to come in. They actually both made contact in the last encounter. And so kind of broke
they both knew.
Yeah.
They both knew that this was it.
Yeah. I have a question.
They figured it out.
This guy was quartered in this house.
Yes.
In America, we have I think it's the Third Amendment, where you don't quarter, and it's
can't be forced to.
But in most wars,
seizure.
Yeah.
At least in World War II and World War I, if you think back to Kubrick's Paths of Glory, it's quite common to be, especially the officers, to be put in amongst some family or something.
We watched the Tank movie.
Well, the question is are they considering him a boarder? Or is he like just the German high command says, no, you're staying here and go fuck yourself. This guy is staying here for nothing.
Well, he's obviously been invalided out of service, right? And
right. Well, he's doing clerical work in a small town somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But I was saying the thing is, I don't know if the people who live there are coerced in having him there, or they're paying for it. They're getting paid.
It could be, they're probably being coerced the way they're acting.
Yeah, well, I'd be pissed too.
Speaking of the dog, I remember that came up earlier. You don't see it for a long time, so it's just a sound effect until about 15, 20 minutes into the movie, and finally they go outside for a walk, and
there's a dog.
There is a dog.
Yes.
It's not just a tape recorder somewhere.
And I was waiting for that. One thing that makes me nuts about movies like this is that the dog, the barking. It's a loop. It's a 35mm audio loop, right? They're editing the thing. Bark, 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 over and over again, right? Because the loop is playing out and playing out and playing out. And so I kept waiting for this. Like, to go outside and you're not waiting for it. There, 3, 2, 1, bark, bark, bark. Bark, bark, bark. It's like, yeah.
Well, I kind of got into kind of in the way I think I like to be anesthetized by my films sometimes. It's kind of the way I got into
I'll give you that.
Levine Chen. I kind of enjoyed the bottled up quality that Chris is objecting so strongly to. And in a way, when they went outside, especially when he went to Paris, I was kind of bummed that they broke the spell to some extent.
Right.
And we had all these
scenes wrong somehow.
It seemed wrong after all that time for him to go out and interact with other people.
Yeah.
It's like
there's also that incredible scene where he has to go do some bureaucratic thing.
Yeah.
And he happens to go to the office, once his name comes in, the German.
And they see each other like reflected in the mirror standing there, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, well, actually, he comes out of the office and they're like, and they just turn around and walk away, both of them.
He turns around. He tells the sergeant to do something and leave.
Well, it's the whole effect. It's like, it's kind of meeting your favorite hooker at a grocery store. It's like,
Well, they do that with the niece too. He passes her in the street, that scene, and they have to pretend that
In
they're
the
like
snow. Yeah, that's
in the
actually a
snow,
good
walking
scene
along the
too.
road there.
Oh, refocus yourself, son.
Awkward.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're blurry, Jim.
Uh,
Yeah.
Oh, you
oh,
know.
that's how it is in
No,
Mexico.
no,
There it is.
You'll just
All
have to
there
get
we go.
closer.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, golly, I think this movie had a point to make, and it made it. You know.
I mean, again, this is like why I like talking about this on the show sometimes. I think you guys are kind of like, I'm now kind of over in the, yeah, that was
Oh,
good.
yeah, I did the thing.
Good.
It happened, yes.
Yeah,
Move the needle up slightly.
for sure. It moved the needle up slightly, even though like it was I don't know, chore. I don't want to say struggle because
Yeah.
no, it wasn't that bad. It was just like it was inert and it was hard. It was hard to stay very engaged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Evidently
It was inert without having like the the kind of weirdness you see there, something like Eraserhead where it's just so fucking strange you can't take your eyes off of it.
Mhm.
And then again, this guy was almost like comedy at
Seriously,
times.
why didn't they just cast an older actor? Because
Yeah,
that
That's
is
what I mean. Like
really distracting.
this
I
guy's
don't know.
26,
Uh-huh.
Oh,
right? He's
okay.
26.
What's
Also-
the actor's name that plays the German? Because we did see him in the next film too.
He's a Swiss actor. His name is no darn.
He's an American sign.
Lippert
Uh-huh.
is his last name. He has like a stage name that he uses.
I kept looking at him. He's not ugly. He's a little odd looking, but he's kind of
He is odd looking.
It's kind of something amazing about his features though, with those big soulful eyes.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking two things. I kept thinking Boris Karloff.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
He could have played Frankenstein's monster, then what's the actor's name that was in
Peter Lorre.
No, well, yeah, Take Shelter.
Mhm.
Yeah, Michael Shannon.
Michael Shannon.
Oh, I think he's got that chiseled two-tone look.
Yeah, and his
Well,
eyes are
and they also light him that way, right?
know,
He's
he's
almost always lit from.
Yeah, he's got
shooting
that
up
blonde hair in
at
a
it.
wave, and he's like really angry looking. He's much taller than
Yeah.
almost everybody in this whole movie.
Yes.
So
correct.
big eyes and they're far apart.
he's bringing a physical to this
Yeah.
whole thing too. Is it not only I'm from the master race, you can see it on me, kind of thing, right?
No shit, yeah.
And so that's part of it. And also we talk about this being a book. This could be a stage play so easy.
Yes, it actually would probably make a better stage.
It would. It's two sets, and just the club and that ridiculous, terrible people just listen to a ticking of a clock all night long. Please play some music. Oh, the part with the harmonium was fun, where they started playing the organ.
Yeah,
was
the
kinda
Bach
nice.
piece.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was a nice moment wherein he was up.
Diegetic music.
yeah.
Well, he was upstairs and he thought that it was his niece playing it. It's like,
Right.
wow, this is a breakthrough. She's playing music again on the harmonium.
Well,
She
that's,
no, it's not her.
that's him. Again, good stuff.
That's a big development in a movie like this.
Yeah.
Did anyone notice anything that they thought they seemed to foreshadow stuff in his later? Because we've seen, we
Like
saw
several
the
Melville
Red
films, yeah.
Circle.
Yeah, Red
And-
Circle, and then what was the other one?
Samurai. The
I
Samurai.
just didn't feel like any of his other movies.
I would not have picked like it was. We watched Kubrick's first movie, The Killing. Was it The Killing? And
Yeah.
then like it
Or The
wasn't until
Killers.
we saw.
Has a Glory.
It wasn't until Paths of Glory we're like, that's a Kubrick movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nothing about this movie betrayed the
Him
Samurai.
later, yeah.
Nothing except, and now I'm the asshole. I'm of the opinion that all of Melville's movies are too slow. So this to me was like, this is consistent for him.
So
Actually,
true. He does set his own pace.
He just had a bigger budget.
Yeah, and also he does work French culture a lot into his films, even because they're French films, but it's also something a little deeper. I think he always had an abiding love of his own exclusively French culture as opposed to other cultures. That's always part of all of his movies. And
Those late movies also had
you see that in his,
Brad Pitt.
you see that in his gangster movies too. You see that?
sure. It's all about there's a lot of understandings about what's going on in France at the time in terms of finance and things like that. And the Plain de Soleil, he didn't do it Plain de Soleil, did he?
No, that's
That was somebody else.
that's another guy.
There's another one. I can't remember what the
You
name of
mean
it
the
is.
Ripley one, yeah.
But either way, there's like that.
Another LA
there is a minor element. It's a major element here, but a minor element in other ones. So
Hey, you guys didn't want to see another Melville? What was the one about the
several
resistance?
Melville.
The resistance fighters, wasn't that him too?
Yeah, where they shoot that guy, he's like
Yeah.
trying to escape or
Yeah,
whatever.
and he comes through the window.
Yeah.
Is that Red Circle?
That's not the Red Circle, is it?
Is it?
Well, we saw one that was about a bank robbery.
Right, a jewelry store robbery.
Yeah, or jewelry. And then we saw the other one that was kind of like resistance types.
Yeah.
Oh,
Got it.
okay. I'm getting mixed up. I thought they were both gangster pictures, so I thought there was a third.
I'll
But
never be able to look it up. We have so many movies now.
You can cut this boring part out, Scott.
Yeah, I will. Thank you. Anyway,
So, I mean,
you have any concluding thoughts on this, Jim?
No, I really enjoyed it. I agree with most of the criticisms. I'm willing to give him some slack because it was made so soon after the end of the war and in France, and it's based on a novel, and he probably had, $25 to spend or
Had you seen it before, Jim?
no, I had not. I'd always wanted to see it,
Oh,
so
wow.
I
Okay.
thought it would be a good one to go with
Yeah.
the train.
Yeah. Hour and a half. That wasn't much of an investment of time, which I like.
no, it's like
Yeah.
7 minutes.
I made it through in a single scene,
Yeah.
basically.
Same.
Yeah, it's so short. It's hard not to.
And
This guy, this guy was in movies as late as Delicatessen.
60s, I think.
Yeah, he was in Delicatessen in what is that, like 94 or was it the early 90s?
Oh, that's
okay,
right.
so the
That's
90s
right.
even.
Big movie? Yeah, he's in that. Like he had quite a career.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
at least a long career.
I was trying to hear his his Swiss accent, and I didn't know if it was when he was speaking German or when he was speaking French.
Yeah. Well, okay.
So,
Well,
yeah, I mean,
Time comes.
after you guys have kind of got me from here to here.
okay. I thought it was a solid effort.
Yeah.
It was a little odd in terms of like how put together and pacing, but like I said, it reminded me of Chris Marker, which reminded me of your film, John. So it actually kind of helped as a translation tool. It's like, oh, this is
Right. It was in a way it was familiar territory.
exactly.